Good evening, all of you. Thanks for joining this webinar conducted jointly by Novigo and Uipath. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to introduce Novigo to all of you. Novigo Solutions is an end-to-end IT solutions provider with proven capabilities on robotic process automation, workplace modernization, cloud services, and AI. We work with a diverse set of customers from US, India, and MENA region. Our global activities us now, and we have established offices in Dallas, US, Dubai, UAE, and we have 2 development centers in India at Bangalore and Mangalore. We currently have more than 30 active customers from 14 countries, ranging from SMB clients to Fortune 1000 customers. When it comes to robotic process automation, we were one of the early SI of Uipath in India and signed the global with Uipath. 15 customers globally on Uipath, out of which 12 are from India. And when it comes to skills on robotic process automation in Uipath, we currently have more than 50 in-house Uipath certified RPA experts, and we have a goal of having 100 more Uipath certified professionals by this financial year end. Novigo Solutions is a CMM level 3 certified company. We are also certified for quality ISO 9001 and information security ISO 27001. Ram, can we move to the next slide? The customer list.
Yeah.
Thank you. Some of the key customers that we work with are, we have customers globally. In US, we have First Tech Fed, which is one of the large credit union banks there. We have San Mateo County from California, another big customers from US. We work with Intertech from Dallas, who are into oil and gas, and T-Mobile from Seattle, where we are currently in discussion to start their RPA journey as well. When it comes to clients in India, we have many banking customers on RPA, like Karnataka Bank. We have their director talking to all of you later in this webinar. We have Ujjivan Bank, we have Federal Bank, South India Bank. All of these are customers for RPA. We also do a lot of RPA work for Swiggy, Ola. We also work with Infosys, PricewaterhouseCoopers. These are all Indian customers that we work with. When it comes to Middle East, we work with some of the large names there, like Dubai Airport, First Abu Dhabi Bank. This is one of the largest banks in the region. Again, we are trying to knock their doors for RPA. We work with Dubai Petroleum and the Al Marai in Saudi Arabia, which is a FMCG giant. And Al Marai, we are doing their, we are starting the RPA journey for them. So this is about Novigo Solutions. I'll hand it back to Ram for further updates.
Thanks, Hanif. And hello everyone, this is Ram from Uipath. I work for the customer success function at Uipath. Today we will be talking about what's RPA as a technology, what it is, and what kind of benefits it could bring to you and to your organization. Okay, so to start off, what is RPA? Maybe fundamentally, to put it in simple terms, RPA is about a software which can actually emulate human desktop actions and drive an ERP or any target application just like a human could do. At scale, actually, you could see that RPA can actually pull the repetitive tasks from people and completely autonomously work on its own and replace a human for the repetitive task that he does. It can actually work like a virtual headcount in your company who could repetitively work transacting in your highly voluminous transactions, rule-based transactions, without any fatigue. Okay, you will understand more as we go further. So let's understand who should be a perfect candidate for RPA. So while RPA is something that can do all the clerical work, I would say, to be precise, on its own. So what kind of a work can actually fit an RPA? So the first thing, there are a couple of parameters that you could evaluate your process or your tasks based on which you get an idea about if a specific process is a perfect candidate for RPA or not. The first parameter that you can think of is something that is highly manual and repetitive in nature. And why do I say this? I say this because if a process is not highly manual or highly repetitive in nature, then there is probably no point in automating it, and you may not even get a good investment return on your investment when you have something that is not highly manual and repetitive. Second thing is it has to be rule-based. If your process involves commonsensical thinking, then that's probably not the process that is for RPA. And if you see most of the processes when they start off, it starts off like a piece of art, and eventually it will evolve to be a series of rule-based tasks. Else if you don't do this, you really can't scale in your process. So any organization, when they start a process, it could probably look like something that needs some amount of intelligence, but later the process gets redefined further, and you see that it evolves to become a rule-based steps. So processes that are perfectly rule-based and evolve to that stage are the right candidates for RPA. The third one is that about low exception rate. A process that has low exception rate will be a good candidate for RPA as against a process that has significantly higher. Why do I say this? Because for the reason, if a process has higher exceptions, that only means there is most of the greater volume of the process is taking a route which is not straightforward. So that means to say, even the robots would put aside those exceptions for humans to deal with. Let's say a process has an exception of about 30%. So even if you robotize this process, that 30% would still fall back as exceptions, and you would need someone to look into. Or if you go ahead and say, I will train my robots to handle these exceptions, then that will probably be a uphill task for you to pick up and automate. So it's good to analyze a process, understand why there are so many exceptions, why is that a lot of work goes back or goes to another department, and reduce that, and ensure probably there's about between 0 to 10% is a max that you can have an exception in a process. That's a good number to pick up for RPA. And the next one is about processes having standardized and readable electronic input. So for robots to read, either your input has to come through probably an email or an Excel workbook, or maybe the inputs are available on a website, or probably available on some ERP application that the robot actually has to go and pick as an input. So these are electronic types of data. So in some instances, inputs are received as printed documents, probably invoices in the case of invoices. So it's good you convert them as electronic, scan them, and give it to robotics. So robots can use OCR technologies or any best technologies to read the scanned images and then get them as electronic inputs. And last but not least, it's extremely important to check these processes have significant FTE savings. It's probably good that you start something which is simpler and may not give you a good FTE saving. Maybe that could be a starter to see if you can really do automation, or maybe test the water types. But as you go in the journey, it's extremely important for you to see if it's going to give you a larger FTE savings, so that the business case stays on for RPA. And the last one is about having a mature and stable process picked up for RPA. Typically, when you start a process, you see that the process goes through changes. It gets improvised as it is being transacted. And you probably, if you have an SOP for a process, you could see the SOP gets revised very often when the process has begun. But as time passes by, if the process is an year old or 2 years old, you see that SOP doesn't get revised so very often. So that means to say the process has gone through the improvement cycles and has reached some point of the best way of transaction, and has become stable. So that's the right moment to execute RPA. Else what happens is you automate your process, and in the next 2 months you realize that the process was not fully efficient and it needs a change, and now you'll have to retrain your robots to deal with the change. So these are some parameters that you can use to evaluate if a candidate is right. And definitely there wouldn't be any candidate that would score 10 out of 10 on all these parameters, but when you evaluate a group of processes, you would see that a couple of them would stand out as would score better against others, and they are closer for becoming a perfect RPA candidate. And moving further, so how RPA would help you? So we will talk about some parameters on which RPA can help you on. The first thing is RPA can bring about good customer experience, and for the only reason that robots can work much faster than humans. They don't go through fatigue, and when you have a robot working for about 8 hours and a human working for about 8 hours, effectively you would have used a human for about 5 to 6 hours, but a robot can actually get used completely 8 on 8. So these are some of the benefits that you can see. And since robots are machines, they can type in much faster, browse through much faster the screens. So your cycle time and your turnaround times get much faster. And second thing is, when you have humans doing repetitive clerical jobs, they are bound to do errors because of probably they're new to the job, or sometimes they get negligent, or sometimes they're tired, fatigue. These parameters actually impact, and they end up doing some typing mistakes and things like that. So you don't get to see such kind of errors when a machine actually does this job. So you would have a significantly increased quality score as well. And overall, the service delivery as such improves when you have RPA in place. Robots can work 24/7, so tasks that are not extremely time critical for the day can be scheduled for the night. So you have a 24/7, you can build a 24/7 delivery unit within your organization. And when it comes to RPA, unlike any other IT implementation, generally IT implementations could go about for 6 to 9 months. Unlike these implementations, RPA is generally very fast, because RPA understands the user interface of an application, be it any application, and drives an application just like a human would do. Hence, your returns of investment would be much faster in an RPA journey. So generally within 1 year on a good RPA candidate. Okay. And the last thing is about RPA not being non-invasive. When I mean non-invasive, comparatively, if you see other technology, when you want to do the traditional automation using integrations and things like that, you could see that you will have to expose your target application, maybe expose the programming layer probably, or expose the database layer for these integrations to happen. But with RPA, you don't have to, there is absolutely no need for your IT infrastructure. Let's say you're automating Finacle as an application. You want an entry to be passed into Finacle. There's absolutely no change that you have to make in Finacle. RPA can understand your application the way it is currently and drive it just like any of your human workforce would drive it. And since that we've spoken about what's RPA, what are the benefits that you can look at, you may think about how do I go about and implement RPA. So in 3 steps to speak about kickstarting your journey, the first thing that you should do is to look for a proof of concept. Pick up a case, maybe in your operations and an RPA candidate, and see. Let's see if you could build an RPA automation on that. That could generally last for about 3 to 6 weeks. This is not a complete process. You would always pick up a part of a process generally, because you're only checking if this works for you. And within 3 to 6 weeks, 3 being a common scenario, and 6 being even in a worst case scenario, you would finish a proof of concept and understand this works for you, your organization. And the second one is to probably pick the same case or pick a new case as a pilot automation. Take a process, pick that as the first process that you want to automate. And generally the time period is within 6 to 10 weeks. You could actually build your workflows, test them as a user acceptance test, and promote that into production and see the robot transacting volumes in a production environment within 10 weeks. And the third step is, now that you have a first process on live, demonstrate it to your organization, build a pipeline, and try building a full-scale implementation across departments, across functions, and have a plan. Maybe you could start having a plan for the year, for the next 3 years, etc. So that's briefly at RPA implementation in the first 3 steps. So if you want to understand what RPA's adoption currently in the industry, this slide gives you a snapshot about across functions and across industries how RPA has been implemented. And what predominantly you can see is finance and accounting is something that most of the industries have gone and adopted. And probably because it's as a process has been constant for over a period of time. And to the right extreme of this slide, you can see some specific processes related to those industries that have been automated. For banking, you could see cards activation or fraudulent claim discovery are generally the processes. In insurance, generally it starts with claim processing or policy inception. These are the processes across industries that have generally been picked up for automation. So this slide gives you a snapshot about various processes that you could pick across functions. These are generic functions that exist in most of the organizations. Then you could pick these use cases for an automation. For example, if I go with HR, one of our customer actually implemented time and attendance management. For them to process the payroll for the end of month, they had to understand the attendance information for the organization, which was a very human workforce intense organization, about 300,000 employees. Spooling all this information, understanding the attendance information for each employee, and computing the loss of pay or the number of days worked, so that would further lead to the payroll processing.
Ram, you there?
In some websites, if he's an I think I lost my connection for a moment. I hope it's back.
It's back. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So do the validations if the vendor is on any of the blacklists, etc., on some government websites or etc., and further go incept this vendor on SAP. This is one of the use cases that you can see. The most common use case is about processing an invoice. Read the invoice details, enter SAP, punch in the invoice details, process the invoice, make payments, pull out the reports from maybe SAP or any ERP, understand what are the payments that have to go today or this week, do some basic sanity checks, and if there are any high value invoices, send them to an approver for him to approve, and then finally upload this into a bank website or send it to a bank via email, etc., for the payments to happen. In an R2R area, generally the reconciliations are the best use cases to automate to start off. So having spoken about these use cases, we can move about the adoption as a trend that Forrester sees. Forrester is a third party that evaluates RPA. They evaluate RPA vendors. They evaluate RPA as a journey. So they predict that 2016 RPA as an industry was a $250 million industry and has the potential to grow for about $2,900 million as an industry. So RPA, you can see that RPA will probably be adopted across industries, across companies at a big scale. Hence, this is the time to act and start off RPA to join the league. This is a message from Forrester. So we spoke about RPA, and would like to introduce you to Uipath as a company and as a product as well. As a company, Uipath, to the right side of the slide, if you see Forrester, the third-party evaluator has listed Uipath in the leaders quadrant, and Uipath leads among the leaders in the leaders quadrant. There are about 15 RPA vendors that were evaluated on about 30 parameters based on the company's strong strategy, strong vision, and the current offerings that they have. They have evaluated, and Uipath, I think it was in Q2 2018 that Uipath took the leaders position. Uipath was on the leaders quadrant in 2017 as well among the three, but was not at the top. But by 2018, the product evolved, and we see Uipath at the top. As a company, Uipath has about 2,500 employees today. Of the top Fortune 10 global customers, 8 of them are Uipath's customers. We are present over 19 countries today. That's the global footprint. And Uipath has attracted over about $1 billion as an investment to build a robust product. And from a growth perspective, in the last 2 years, Uipath's revenue has moved from 8 million to a 200 million revenue. That just shows how fast RPA is being adopted globally. And from a valuation perspective, company has moved from about $100 million to $7 billion valuation, which just shows that the company is progressing in the right direction, having the right value to the industry. So with this, I would like to introduce you to Uipath as a product. Uipath product suite has three basic products. I would start with Uipath Studio. Uipath Studio is a place where you could program your robot or teach your robot how to how to transact a particular business transaction, how to understand a specific application like Finacle, etc., or probably like text, a notepad, or a mainframe, any application Uipath can understand. And this is where a typical Uipath developer would design his workflows and deploy them into the next component called Orchestrator. Orchestrator is like a central component which manages robots and the studios. It's a web-based control system. Some of the salient features that I can speak about is Orchestrator helps you scale automation and control your RPA journey. It gives you business insights, gives you RPA insight, the process insights about what each robot is up to and how many transactions have completed, etc. A dashboard. And it protects you against compliance and regulatory requirements. And the last thing is gives you a flexibility to deploy at scale. And Uipath robots are the robots that actually transact cases how it has been programmed in the Uipath Studio. So robots are softwares that are installed on machines, maybe to keep it simple, on desktop machines, I could say. And once you build a workflow using Uipath Studio, you deploy on these robots using the orchestrator, and these robots would run your repetitive tasks again and again. So with robots, it's important to understand that there are broadly two types of robots. One is called the attended robot, and the other one is called the unattended robot. These two are designed based on the need and based on the kind of processes that exist today. Unattended robots are robots that could start on their own, log into a machine and start working 100% autonomously. It doesn't need anyone to start or monitor the robot or supply any inputs to it. On the contrary, we have the attended robots. Attended robots are designed for a use case where you have to have humans and robots working together hand in hand. A good example that I could give is in a call center team where you receive calls from customers and customer starts asking you queries. So when you have to fetch information about the customer, generally it is across applications or across destinations. Some information is available on a SharePoint, some information is available on your ERP, some on some other Excel workbook. So you can have a robot deployed. Once you give a customer number to it, it could go fetch all the information from various sources and give you a dashboard of information about the customer. So while you're busy understanding the customer's query, your robot actually does all this task and gives it to you. So this kind of a robot and human interaction will need an attended robot where a human would trigger the robot and the robot does the task that he wants him to do. Attended robots and unattended robots together can be connected to the orchestrator and can be managed at one place. The only difference is that you could trigger an unattended robot from orchestrator, but an attended robot has to be triggered on a desktop because that's the intention of the software. While we've spoken so much about the software, I thought it's good I showcase how the software looks for someone who's not seen how Uipath looks. Anyways, the software is available. You could download from our website a free version and just play around to get a feel about it. I would just showcase for a moment. I'm assuming you're able to see my screen still. So what I've opened is the Uipath Studio. And at the center, what you see is the workflow designer, whereas RPA developer can design his workflows here. And to the left is what you see are the list of desktop activities or any kind of activities that a human would do, which you can teach a robot. To keep it simple, maybe one of the activities that you can see is UI automation activities. So there are about 300 activities here. So let's go under UI automation, and you can see there are some mouse related activities, and this is the click activity. So you can just drag and drop and indicate what you want to click on the screen, and the robot understands that it has to click. Similarly, there are keyboard activities like type into. So you just drag and drop and click where you have to type in and type in what text has to be typed in. Okay, so just to show you, let's say it's all about, your automation is all about opening an application and typing some values in it. Okay, for now I would say it's typing some values, but in a business scenario it's typing specific values. Okay, so I have to open an application. Let's say I give open application as an activity, drag and drop. So this is an activity, and it asks you what application it wants to be open. So let's say I keep the application open. So this is an application that I want to keep it open, and I want to teach Uipath to open this application. Okay. Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay, guys, so maybe I can just use the current desktop. So if I have to, just a moment, guys. I think it's because I'm sharing the screen. I get this problem. So let's again share the screen. Have this. Okay, so let me at least try showing you how Uipath understands the screen. So this is just guys. Okay, guys, I think it's because I share the screen. I can't really pull the application that I want to showcase. That's still fine. So we move on. That's okay. I'll just try offline if I can pull this.
So as we mentioned, Novigo Solutions RPA approach, we always believe in the way Uipath says, taking the robot out of human. This is the way how we always go and tell our customers. So we basically put it to 4 strategy and 4 pillars. So the first one is a strategy with the customer. We engage with our customer as a true partner in putting the strategy for digital strategy. This is come as the RPA is one of the pillar of digital transformation for any of the customer. We engage with our customers as a true partner where we plan how exactly the roadmap for the RPA journey and staff development, because RPA is one of those tools where it need not be vendor dependent, because the in-house team can be developed over a period of journey. That's how we always suggest with our customers, so that if required, customer can build their own center of excellence. The second part is RPA assessment. Having the right process identified is one of the key aspects in RPA journey. So as Ram would have mentioned previously, we always suggest our customer any process which is highly repetitive and manual, which is rule-based and the high volumes. This is the right process which we need to identify before we take up RPA journey, so that the proper ROI is shown to the management, as well as you get the benefit out of the RPA journey. The proof of concept, which we always suggest for the customer before you take up the license or before you take up any of things, we are open for doing any of the proof of concept by picking up the right process and showing that how exactly RPA can benefit, so that it opens up ideas for all the required business users to identify from their respective department. This has worked with all our customers, which we in last one and a half years. We have worked with most of the customers, and each business user come up with their own business cases. The RPA tool, picking the right vendor and the right tool is one of the other aspects. And we have Uipath was one of the best tools which we have come across in the industry, and that's why we always suggest Uipath to all our customers. So as we speak, we have done about 80 cases for customers, if I come out last 1 year's journey. And what we have done is we have taken 4 best use cases to showcase, to give you the glimpse of how RPA has helped in their respective journey. Ram, if you could move to the next slide. This is one of the best use case which we have picked from Karnataka Bank. I mean, which you can relate to any other industry as well, but especially for the banking industry. So we have picked this use case when we have 2 large systems to be integrated. So one of the approach would be build an API and integrate with the 2 systems, which takes huge effort and time, as well as the cost. So where we picked this use case in Karnataka Bank, where it is for the internet banking registration in. So nowadays, every industry where digital disruption is going, and one of the banking disruption is having internet banking. So on a day-to-day basis, the bank was getting a lot of requests on the internet banking registration, and they use a product called FIBA. FIBA is a product from Finacle, Infosys Finacle Internet Banking Activation. So new request used to come before the RPA journey. The new request used to come manually to the business user, and all the details are verified in the core banking system by the banker. And once the validation is done, if he is activated for the internet banking activation, the activation mail used to go to the end customer. So it used to take about 5 to 10 minutes per request to validate. And on a day-to-day basis, we used to get about 150 to 200 requests from the end users. So what we did is like bot. Now we implemented a unattended bot, which Ram just. It is completely automated, where human intervention is not required, and it works 7 days a week. So what the robot does is like it extracts the open request from the FIBA system. FIBA is nothing but the system which is for internet banking. All the open requests, the bot logins to the Finacle system, and it validates whether the person or the user is eligible for the internet banking activation. Once it approves, it's valid results to automatically back to the FIBA system, and FIBA generated customer receives the status of application portal. Two things are achieved. One, we avoided the human intervention. Second, the customer service is also improved, where whenever we request for internet banking, the human intervention or human process used to take or never used to be. Now, since it happens on the weekends as well, customer services improved drastically here. So, similar mode of use case, interesting use case. You could move to the next slide. This is wallet reconciliation for one of the e-commerce portal in India. So as I mentioned, digital disruption in this area is also one of the best use cases for RPA. So across the industry, the digital payment, wallet payment is increasing. So this is for one of the largest e-commerce portal for food and beverages in India. They have about 30 plus wallets incorporated in their portal. So whenever a user orders a food or whenever a user accesses this portal, and when it goes to the payment page, it shows that there are a lot of internet banking. Other option could be credit card. Last option is a wallet. When it comes to wallet, it used to be earlier. It used to be one or two wallets, but on a day-to-day basis, the number of wallets are increasing, and all the enterprise customers are forced to go for the wallet adoption. The reason being, each wallet has their own customer base. To make it as a customer friendly, they always onboard the new wallets, whichever is introduced in the market. So in this particular customer, they have about 30 plus wallets they have used, and every day the digital transaction used to increase. So on a day-to-day basis, to making the reconciliation was a pain point for this customer, and they were not able to do on a transaction level on the same. So what this customer used to do is they used to do the summary basis reconciliation. For example, on a day-to-day basis, they were having about 35,000 to 45,000 transaction on a day-to-day basis using a wallet payment through a portal. So this was a very difficult task for them to do a transaction level reconciliation manually. So because here three systems are involved. One is a billing system of a portal. Second is a bank statement where the wallet deposits the amount to the bank statement of the particular customer. The third is the wallet statement. So from what different wallets you get it in a different format. So what the manually they used to consolidate in amount level and summary level, they used to do the reconciliation on a day-to-day basis. After the RPA process implementation, it's completely automated, and the customer was able to do on a transaction level basis. So here, one of the advantage, what happens in case if there is any transaction level failures, the repayment for the customer used to take 2 days time to redeposit the money back to the wallet. But because of the RPA process, they were able to do it within 24 hours. So that was a huge achievement what they were able to achieve out of the RPA journey. Another aspect which we need to see, when a new wallet is increased, they don't have to increase the human power or FTE here, and because almost the RPA process is defined, and we need to add the wallet type. What is the transaction or what is the statement which wallet states? We just need to map here. So if you see the slide below, earlier the manual process, it's a daily task. It used to take about 5 hours per wallet. So you can imagine if at all, if there are 30 plus wallets, the number of hours required for this. And it was only the base summary and no reconciliation happening during the weekends. So post RPA process, it takes hardly 1 minute per wallet, and it generates a settlement entry. For example, if a particular wallet has about 5,000 entries, and out of 5,000, if 4,900 gets processed clearly and around 100 process fail, in the sense if 100 customers paid through a wallet and if it doesn't get settled, so this disputed transaction easily being identified, and the particular bot identifies the process, and it triggers the process to repay the wallet back. So this way, customer satisfaction is also improved for this particular customer. So let's move to the third case study. which is for a Tamo group. So here the idea behind identifying this process is there are a lot of customers where the matured processes are used in SAP or ERP like Oracle apps or PeopleSoft, where the processes are matured, but there is a manual entry is required each phase of the life. So let me explain the process here. Tamo is one of the, just to give you the background, Tamo is one of the largest property real estate management company from Middle East, based out of Dubai. They have about thousands of properties across GCC countries. So their pain point was they usually get about 900 to 1,200 invoices per day from different vendors, where about a 10 or 15 members team used to sit and manually read from the invoices and get an entry into the SAP system. Here, if you see, the step one would be where accountant receives the invoices from different vendors through an email in a PDF format, where the person accountant downloads the file from the email in a PDF format, where the PO number, the details like PO number, invoice number, particular invoice date, the invoice amount, and the VAT or GST amount mentioned in the invoice. This needs to be extracted from the invoices and put it in the SAP system. Then there is to be an invoice approval process where particular rule-based are set. For example, the PO particular against a particular invoice, see the PO amount and PO value, either it is approved or rejected. So similarly, at the end, the invoice is processed in SAP system. The vendor payment is initiated through the SAP system. So down, if you see the post RPA implementation, so the vendor sends in invoices in a specific mail ID associated with RPA processing. What we have done is, like, on the journey, we have asked the customer to improve their process as well, where we have created one of the common email ID for this vendor, where all the vendors sends the invoices in their PDF format to this particular email ID. What the robot does is, like, robot, it runs every hour. It checks what are the new invoices received in the email. This PDF invoice attached in the emails are downloaded into a particular folder, and once it keeps in the particular folder, it converts from a PDF through OCR engine. Here we have used the Google OCR engine. We can use either Abby as a tool or Google OCR or any custom built OCR extract engine. We have built another custom built Python based custom built engine as well. So here PDF files are converted into TXT format, and it reads from that particular folder and it reads into TXT format. So because it's easier for us to convert into Excel sheet. So all this, the extracted data, we put it into Excel sheet in a structured Excel data, which we defined so that robot can read it easily. As a third step, robot reads from this Excel sheet and it validates with against the PO number, the amount and the invoice date. And one level of approval is automatically generated through SAP system through our robot itself. In case if there are exceptions or in case if there are any disputes, it usually goes to the exception management where the human can come and verify. See, post-production, I can give you the data. Earlier, about 900 to 1,000 invoices, 1,200 invoices used to come for this vendor on a day-to-day basis. Now, around 90% of the invoices are automatically processed. Only the 10% of disputed or if there are any exceptions are raised, those are manually verified. There is a significant amount of effort, human effort is reduced here. And this robot is an unattended robot which runs every hour, so that even the customer or the vendor sends the invoice, within 1 hour, they get a notification that your invoice is processed for the accounts payable department. So let's move to the last process out of the 4 processes what we have identified today for your presentation. This is for Swiggy. Swiggy, as you all know, this is one of the largest food delivery chain in India. They have onboarded about 10,000 customers and around 12 cities in India. They are growing on a day-to-day basis, and they're increasing their restaurant number of restaurants or customer base in India. So Swiggy has an analytical engine which runs on the back end, where they analyze all the data from different restaurants and see what are the pattern of the customer which they get it. And all these growth tips which is put into the Power BI dashboard. So on these 10,000 customers, each restaurants are assigned to a manager. For example, maybe let's take a number of about 300 to 400 assigned to a particular manager, where this particular the manager downloads the particular report from the Power BI dashboard, which gives the growth tip. For example, which are the areas this restaurant needs to be worked upon. This growth tip files are downloaded from the Power BI dashboard, and these PDFs are sent manually through an email as an attachment. So it typically month on month, this activity has been conducted by Swiggy, where it sends to the customer. So where as they grow in a rapid phase, they were not able to track whether it was sent to all the customers on a particular date, whether email has been received by the customer. All this read receipt, all these things were not able to manage since it was a human effort or a manual effort. So we suggested about RPA process on a month-end activity, which runs on a month-end, where all these 10,000 customers reports are downloaded from the Power BI dashboard, where we have captured the all the customer name, email ID in an Excel sheet. So what our robot does is, like, on a month-end activity, it goes to the particular folder, takes the particular PDF format, and through an Excel, it checks which is a particular customer and their email ID. And we have used a third-party tool called SendGrid here for the mass emailer, where it has got the feature of to capture how many emails have sent and how many people have downloaded and read the growth tips. This helps in customer satisfaction for all the Swiggy customers. Second, also Swiggy gets the report on a month-on-month basis that how many reports have sent on a particular date. Here, earlier, it used to take about 15 days to get all the customers. For example, if the email was supposed to go on 1st of the month, since it was a high volume and manually it used to take about 5 to 10 days time to complete the activity. So if you see down, if you see the manual process, you had a practical challenge of 10K partners and no traceability. So post RPA process, so the robot takes only hardly 30 minutes to 30 seconds to download the report, and it runs about overnight, so that it continuously run. And for the 10,000 customers, the robot takes about 3 days. Even we are in the process of optimizing it to make it 1 day by putting more robots. As of now, we use 1 robot to run the process, but using 3 robots, we can achieve in 24 hours time. So that on 1st of every month, all the customer gets what is the growth tip for that particular month based on the previous months. So these are the 4 use cases. But if any of the customer wants to know about more process and on a particular segment or a domain, we would be more than happy to showcase our demo and showcase how exactly we can help your RPA journey. So moving on to the next slide. So it's our privilege to have Mr. Divakar Rao, AGM IT Karnataka Bank. He is one of our early adopter for RPA journey. So Karnataka Bank has been our customer from last 1 year. So we would like to hear from him about his RPA journey, how Novigo has helped in his RPA journey. Also, what was the reason choosing Uipath as a product, and how Uipath has helped him in his RPA automation journey.
And Divakar, we all can hear you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Divakar from Karnataka Bank. As Mr. Shihab said, we have implemented the RPA solution of Uipath platform, in many of the use cases. One scenario is already explained, that is the registration of the automated registration of the internet banking for the users. Apart from that, we have already implemented 11 more, and about 5 or 6 are still it's under development. A couple of the examples I can quote that, user activation. Once the user is onboarded onto the 1 minute. Once the user, once the employee is boarded onto the bank employment, we may have to create many user IDs in many applications. Say instead of logging in and creating all the user IDs, and apart from this, as a banking industry, the employee will be transferred or employee will be terminated during his journey, during his life cycle of this employment. Say all these processes are automated. Say once the he entered into employment, user ID will be created manually at once in HRMS. Then at the rest of all the places, it will be automated. It is automated. Similarly, when the employee is moved from one department to another department or one branch to another branch, all the application user credentials are automated, modifications are automated. Or if the employees exited from the employment, that is also updated. There is a one total automation. It is we have taken care of that. And apart from this one total one department, we have a one department called a tax cell. All the tax related matters or PF related matters all are being handled at one department. That is a one department. It is a totally automated. Example, the GST reconciliation. Say GST amount is paid at various branches based on the contracts, and salary tax paid. All these activities are totally automated. So, and I want to put one more third example is a what do you call for regulators, some information we may have to feed from about the banking transactions. Okay, say related to RBI upload or SIBC upload, we call it as a SIBC upload. All these are drawn from the various applications or MIS department. All these are reconciled and to be uploaded. These are all some of the examples like that. Say about 11 is already 11 processes are automated. Still many more in queue. Anything more to add? Just please offer your queries. Outcome of this, what we have seen is reduction of the employment, that is a human manpower. Say we can say it is a digital workforce. Simple words. Hello.
Thanks, Divakar. Thanks for sharing your experience with us.
Okay.